Planning Commission is called to order at 6:02 p.m. And for first, we will have a Pledge of Allegiance by our Commissioner Jen Houston. To the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. Will the Secretary please call for the roll?
Chairperson Richard.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Cohens.
Present.
Commissioner Houston.
Here.
Okay, everybody's here.
Oral communications. This is the time for the public to address the Planning Commission on the items not on the public hearing portion of the agenda. After obtaining permission to proceed by the presiding officer, speakers should first state their full name and address for the record, as not required. The speakers shall limit their address to 3 minutes. Any public comments that are discriminatory, defamatory, or otherwise not protected speech will not be considered, consented to, or otherwise adopted by the Planning Commission in its deliberations and findings. As a courtesy to others, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. The Planning Commission strives to treat all participants with civility, and we ask that you do the same. Again, please keep remarks to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who'd like to address the commission? Okay. Seeing no one, I will close oral communications. Planning Commission consent calendar.
We have one item on the consent calendar. That is the minutes of the November 1st, 2023 meeting.
Okay. So, yeah, where do I go from there?
Mo-
What do we do
Motion
with
to
that?
approve.
We need a motion to
Oh,
approve the
motion,
consent
okay.
calendar.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion and a second.
Okay.
Okay, so there's been a motion. A second. Will Secretary please call for the vote?
Let's see. Vice Chairperson Cohens.
Yes.
Commissioner Houston.
Yes.
Secretary Richard.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Okay. The consent calendar is approved.
New public hearings.
The first public hearing tonight is a variance. This is application VA 2023-0001.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll be presenting an application for a variance.
Hold
This
on a second. He's got to
okay.
open the public hearing first.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. What do I say?
We're at the top of page 2. Now is the time and place.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Now is the time to open the public hearing to consider variance VA 2301. Assistant Planner Anais Bermudez will present the staff report.
Okay.
And yeah, we're still there.
Okay. I'll be presenting an application for a variance, and this application is for a residential property where the homeowner would like to do an addition to the home, and they're applying for a variance because the property falls into a unique category, which is non-conforming. And so we'll look at the conditions of the site and see what makes the property eligible for a variance. So this is the vicinity of the property, which is outlined in red. As you can see, the residence is surrounded on 3 sides by other homes, and to the south is Ramona Elementary School. The yellow zone is low-density residential, and the green is urban open space. So this is what the front of the property looks like, and as you can see, it appears to be a typical residence with a standard setback, similar to the rest of the homes on 135th Street. However, what makes this property unique and eligible for a variance is that the first 20 feet of that setback closest to the street was acquired by the city of Hawthorne in a deed that took place around 1965. And so the purpose of that was because there was going to be a street widening project, but we've spoken with Public Works, and there hasn't been any plan to widen the street, and there's no plans in the future. So as it stands, the parcel is going to remain how it looks there. And then the 5'5" setback that you see outlined in green, that's the homeowner setback. So that's their actual property line, that first 5 foot 5 inches closest to their home. So in this image, you can visualize where the property line actually lies. It's that red property line mark. What you see shaded in blue is the existing structure, and what you see in red is the proposed addition. This is the first floor. So when you see the darker shaded walls, that's going to be what's new. So what's proposed on the first floor is a new bedroom, a new staircase that'll lead to the new addition on the second floor. And the whole second floor is new. There's going to be a total of 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, some closet space, and then the top landing. So with a variance, there are 4 specific findings that must be made in order for the Planning Commission to approve the application. And the first is that there are special circumstances or limitations that don't apply to other properties in the vicinity. And in this case, it's that 5-foot 5-inch setback. So where there are neighboring parcels that have a standard setback, they don't need to go to Planning Commission to develop further. And the reason is, with this limited setback, you can't expand a non-conforming use. So that is an unusual condition and is reason for the variance. Just a moment, please. Sorry, I can't operate the mouse here. And the second finding is that the property owner wants to be able to enjoy their property to the extent enjoyed by neighbors. And so with this limitation on development of the property, they can't expand their property right now anything greater than 200 square feet. So the granting of the variance will allow them to expand their property, the proposed 1,100 square feet. The third finding is that granting of the variance will allow the property to develop in harmony with surrounding developments. And so when this project enters plan check, we're going to ensure that there's no detriment to the community. So they're subject to all of the codes, whether that be Hawthorne Municipal Code or California Building Code, everything else. They're subject to any plan check corrections from the fire department as well. So we will ensure that the project is code compliant on every level. And the fourth finding is that the proposed scope of work does not encroach upon any property owned by the city or others. And this property there's no project overlap with anything that the city has interests in, and it doesn't conflict with the general plan. So that's a good thing. And so that analysis brings us to our recommendation, which is that the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission Resolution 2023-2022. 2023-22 rather, and approve the variance of the expansion so that the applicant can enter plan check. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the Planning Commission have any questions of staff?
I don't have any questions on this.
No questions as well.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission on this issue? Everyone seems good. Okay. Mr. McLean, are there any documents to place into the administrative record?
No, there are none.
Do my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions of staff? Nope.
No questions.
I move now to formally close the public hearing on these items. Do I have a?
I second.
Motion to approve, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
That'll work. That'll work.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? Okay.
And yeah, so
Call for a vote.
yep, we're gonna
Okay.
call for.
Commissioner or Vice Chairperson Cohens,
Yes.
Commissioner Houston,
Yes.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Okay, this is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 we have today is conditional use permit CU 2023-15 and design review application DR 2023-18.
Okay, now's the time and place to open the public hearing to consider conditional use permit CU 2023-0015 and design review application for DR 23-0018. Director Greg McLean will present the staff report.
Yes, this is a request by the applicant to continue this one to the December 6th meeting. So all we need is a motion to continue to December 6th. A second, we'll vote.
Entertain a motion to continue. Anyone?
Yeah, motion.
Motion, I'll second. Secretary, call for the vote.
Okay. Vice Chairperson Cohen's,
Yes.
Chairperson Richard,
Yes.
and Commissioner Houston.
Yes.
Okay, so this has been continued to December 6th. All right, next item is conditional use permit 2023-16 and a design review application 2020, or DR 2023-17.
Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider conditional use permit 2023-0016 and design review application DR 2023-17. Director McLean will present the staff report.
Thank you. This is our first cannabis application for a conditional use permit in the city. So I will start with a few slides to give the background, which I hope I won't ever have to do again, but but we'll start with that. So, by the way, this is the application for Stizzy, okay? And I'm sorry, that's at 12801 through 12801A on Rosecrans. So that's at the corner of El Segundo Boulevard. So let's start with a local cannabis timeline. I know this is really tiny print, but there's a lot of things to cover, and I'll just briefly go through them. This goes back to 1996 when Prop 215 legalized medical cannabis in the state, but Hawthorne in 2007 banned it. And then when Proposition 64 was coming up, or being rumored to come up, in January of 2016, the city took another step to prohibit all forms of cannabis businesses. But Prop 64 was approved in 2016, and just for information, the approval rate in Hawthorne was 59 yes, and that's two percentage points higher than the state average. Okay. In June of 2017, the state merged the medical and the adult use cannabis regulations. In November of 2000, the city passed the 5% tax on cannabis business revenues. In October of 2021, the Cannabis Working Committee was formed by the city to study the options. The Cannabis Working Committee came back in November of 2022 with a recommendation for an ordinance that would permit cannabis businesses in the city. After that, in December, cannabis business proposals were accepted. We received, I think, around 20. And of those, the top candidates were announced in March. All of the cannabis CUP applications that we have before you tonight, as well as additional 4 more, will make 6 altogether for retail. And last night, actually, or I think I got ahead of myself. No, in February 2023, the ordinance was approved that address cannabis zoning issues. So this is a quick rundown of the cannabis ordinances. There are 2 of them. One is, oops, got too far. One authorizes and limits the following business types. So retail storefronts, the city will allow 6. Retail with consumption, the city will allow 3 among the 6. Delivery, up to 8, which could be among the 6, or it doesn't have to be. Cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and testing, there's no limit. Now, only the retail and the consumption require a conditional use permit, okay? But the first thing is that ordinance also removed the prohibitions that I had talked about earlier, except for in the residential zones. So cannabis retail and consumption are permitted in all of the commercial zones and all of the industrial zones, whereas all those other cannabis business uses are only allowed in the industrial zones. Okay, I already covered that. Okay, so moving on from there, same group of ordinances. There was an establishment of buffers that I think that's good for everybody to know. Retail storefronts and retail with consumption area were required to find locations that were at least 600 feet from parks or K through 12 schools and at least 150 feet from commercial daycare, treatment and recovery facilities, and other cannabis retailers. Just for your information, not relevant to this application, but all of the other types of cannabis businesses were required to be 150 feet from all of those sensitive uses. And it also sets a maximum this is not relevant to this particular application, but it is to the next one. A maximum floor area for consumption is 50% of the total retail space. Okay, so that's the background. Let's talk about Stizzy's application. So as I said, they're proposing to be at the southwest corner of El Segundo Boulevard and Crenshaw Boulevard at 12801 Crenshaw is the address. These are the current site conditions and 2 photos of the portion of the strip center that they are proposing to occupy. It is the part closest to El Segundo Boulevard. If you're in the parking lot, it's the furthest to the right. It's on the end. This is the site plan. So you can see the site has abundant parking, and there are, I forgot to count, I think maybe 10 businesses in this center that share that parking. And the outline in red, which is probably drawn a little bit too small, is Stizzy's footprint within the building. So the building, as I showed you before, is already gray, and all of the units there are gray, and they have a yellow stripe on the facade. And Stizzy's proposal is to change the yellow stripe to green and put their sign up, but otherwise it stays just like it was so that it matches the rest of the center. So there's not a whole lot for us to discuss in terms of design on the outside of the building, okay? So this is essentially what it would look like if you took away all the cars. And for floor plan, I know this is gonna be hard to read, so I'm gonna highlight different areas. So this is where the lobby is. Now, the floor plan is essentially a big square, so that's the lobby. It doesn't take up a lot of the space. And here's a rendering of what their lobby could look like, should look like. This is an art gallery. So they're proposing to have a little art gallery off to the side. Not, it would be for artists to display, as I understand. It won't be Stizzy's art. I mean, it'll be artists. And I think if they're sold, and they're sold by the artist. You can get clarification on that from the applicant. So this is a rendering of what that could look like. This is the retail sales area. So it's about half the floor plan. All the stuff to the left of that are the back office, the storage areas, and the restrooms and break room and things like that. So this is the main thing. You got lobby, art, and then the retail floor area, sales area. This is a rendering of what that could look like. It's very straightforward, just counters along the edge. Customers don't get to the other side. Employees stay on their side and retrieve the products when they're purchased. So there are, how many? Sorry, it's a little tiny for me to read. There are 37 conditions of approval for this project, and I just wanted to point out a few of them. The first 7 are the general conditions that apply to all of the CUPs in some form. And 8 through 20 are the cannabis retail business conditions, and a few of them that I just wanted to highlight for the benefit of the public. Number 9 is at least 1 security guard required during hours of operation. Number 10 must connect to the Hawthorne Police Department's video surveillance system. 15 is operating hours are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 17, live entertainment, which they're not asking for, but if they ever do, has to adhere to the noise and crowd size requirements that are already in the code. 21 through 22 are delivery and distribution conditions because that's an option for retail to have that. 23 through 24 are operational conditions, and site maintenance is covered into that. 25 through 29 are miscellaneous conditions, and number 25 is the landscape plans. Now, this is, as a multi-tenant center, the landscaping is shared in some fashion by all of them, and it's more or less the landlord's responsibility to keep it in good condition. And we can't put conditions on a non-applicant, but there are portions of the landscaping that are adjacent to this building, which we think that the applicant will be able to ensure get landscaped, because currently they're just dirt areas. And so we did include a condition on that part, not the entire site though. 26 is just the process for doing modifications if something comes up down the line, and time limit is in 29. The last conditions, 30 through 37, are just public works conditions, and those cover things like making sure that the things that they need to see on the plans are on there, and any repairs to the sidewalk or curb adjacent to the project have to be repaired. So with that, I don't think I need to remind everybody that we're dealing with the land use issue of this, and the policy of the city is already established with regard to cannabis businesses. So we're not making that decision. We're just deciding that, given that, is this location and where they're proposing to run the business there appropriate? And do the conditions of approval cover any contingencies that we see? So our recommendation is that you adopt Resolution 2023-24, approving the conditional use permit and the design review with the conditions attached. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I know the applicant is here, and the applicant will have their own presentation, so we can either jump right into that, or you can start having people give testimony, but I recommend you let the applicant do their thing.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's move to the applicant.
Pardon me?
So yeah, let's do that. So let's move to the
Yeah.
applicant's presentation. Is the applicant here and would they like to speak?
It's the one underneath, number 2, yeah.
Good evening, Honorable Planning Commission. My name is Tak Sato. I'm the president of STIZI. I'm here with Cyrus Pai, our director of development. I believe he has a few words.
I think you have to hit that thing in the yellow band first. Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Doc. Good evening, Planning Commission, and thank you for allowing us to present tonight. My name is Cyrus Pai. I'm Director of Development for Shrine Group, the parent company of STIZI Hawthorne, and the proposed cannabis business operator at 12801 Crenshaw Boulevard. A little background on Shrine Group. We are the largest cannabis operator in California by revenue, store count, and total cannabis operations. We are also the most experienced cannabis operator in California and have firsthand experience operating stores in a variety of locations, from dense urban locations to more suburban communities. We are based nearby in Los Angeles, and within Los Angeles County currently operate 4 retail stores and all other cannabis verticals, including distribution, manufacturing, and cultivation. A little background on our owners. Our founder, James Kim, is an Iraq War veteran and founded our company in 2017 to help other veterans cope with PTSD and pain management. The president and co-owner of Shrine Group, Tak Sato, has over 6 years of cannabis experience, and his background as an attorney ensures that our operations are 100% compliant. We are proud to be unionized with UFCW, and we are one of the first to sign a global collective bargaining agreement with them. We are the largest cannabis employer in the state of California with over 2,800 employees, and we will create at least 45 new jobs with this store. We also plan to create additional jobs through an off-site distribution center in Hawthorne. We provide full medical benefits and an employer-funded pension plan to all our employees. Retail associates at this location will make between $1,750 and $2,450, with managers making between $70,000 and $80,000. We also provide workforce development classes to all our employees, which count towards college credits at accredited colleges in California. We initially applied and were selected as the top-ranking candidate for a cannabis license through the city's competitive license award in January 2013. Since the award notice in March 2023, we've been working closely with city staff and our design and real estate team to find an optimal location and thoughtful design for our proposed store. In addition to our retail store, we do plan to operate a distribution facility as well that will augment our current distribution headquarters in downtown LA. So we're requesting a conditional use permit for our cannabis storefront retail here. The pictures on the right show up the slide show context of our site in the neighborhood, with our proposed project site highlighted in yellow. We plan to take approximately 2,800 square feet of the 11,000 square foot multi-tenant shopping center. Complementary businesses within the shopping center are Aloha Teriyaki, Fabulous Grill, and a donut shop, and a few other nice restaurants there as well. As experienced cannabis operators, we spent a lot of time trying to find the right location that was in a commercial corridor, away from sensitive uses, and conforming to zoning and consistent with the intent of the general plan, and we believe we found that in 12801 Crenshaw Boulevard. We take pride in building out quality interiors. Here are a few of our built-out stores right here. And here's some of the renderings that staff also included in their presentation. In addition to physical security upgrades, our security procedures are very similar to a bank. We have a very robust security process that is in place to ensure no thefts and that customers and neighbors are safe. We always have armed security on site during operational hours. Our camera system has up to 90-day playback, which law enforcement and regulators will always have access to. In addition, we have 24/7 CCTV monitoring off-site that helps augment our guards on the premises.
The application will be reviewed and approved by our Building and Safety Department. If your business applies, who will contact you to schedule an inspection of the physical property? Follow-up inspections may be necessary. Then, the application will be sent to the Hawthorne Police Department and LA County Fire Department, who will check for issues associated with the address such as excessive calls and more. The city manager and finally the city attorney will review what businesses are coming to the city, ensure all proper steps or approvals have been taken, and that there is no pending or past litigation against the proposed business. Upon final approval, a business tax certificate is created and mailed. This document is not given over the counter. Note, if your application is denied by any department involved in the approval process, please follow up with that department directly. What you should know: business tax certificates expire December 31st and renew annually January 1st to 31st. Taxes paid after January 31st will incur a 25% monthly penalty until 100% is reached. Taxes are based on flat fees or gross sales from the previous year. At renewal time, gross receipts are given. Calculations can result in an adjustment of taxes owed or credited. Please call the licensing office when trying to calculate your business tax for accuracy. If you have a credit, it will be applied to the next year's taxes. The city does not accept partial payments. If you do not have a business tax certificate, you may not conduct business in the city of Hawthorne.
But it's just how the ordinance was written, and I think very likely our operations will be from 8 to 10.
Okay.
I can explain why we chose 6 to 10, and it turns out that through our consultants' experience, there are customers that like to visit these places at 6 a.m., and those are the ones who are generally older and don't want to mingle with, all of the other customers, so they'd like to just get in, get their supplies and get out.
Thank you. Get there. Okay, I was curious of just the hours, because I know that there are, if you look at the diagram right across the street, there is a residential area over there, and it is school time and people going, and I was just curious of why so early when we all know how mornings are. And if it's getting crowded, it could be a hassle getting to school. But you answered it. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I did just want to say thank you for your presentation. I appreciate you guys being here. And overall, the layout looks great. Looks like a really just good-looking project. I do have some questions to staff, but I'll wait till we get to them.
Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be for you guys or the staff. It's about the ventilation and the process of that. More concerned about the odor control.
So we upgrade all our HVAC systems with carbon filters. Also, all our product is in sealed containers, so there isn't really any open product at all. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So our sorry if you didn't get that, but we upgrade all the HVAC systems with carbon filters. In addition, there's no open product. All product that's stored in the store is all in sealed containers. Additionally, one of our SOPs for retail staff is to walk the premises twice a day, just to check if there's any malfunctions or anything like that with the HVAC systems. So yeah, it's pretty robust.
So on the ventilation system, when you have it for consumption there at the lounge?
So this one's not doing
So,
consumption.
yeah, we won't be
Oh,
doing
this is-
consumption here.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
that's
Sorry,
the
I
next
got
one.
you.
But even the retail requires ventilation.
Yeah, exactly, but I just wanted to,
I
okay.
was gonna ask the same thing, and I realized, no, yeah.
This was, I had too many of them. Okay, hold on one second. And let me see here. And on the product storage, how will the cannabis products be stored to ensure the freshness and prevent degradation?
So we distribute to ourselves, and we have distribution drop-offs about twice a week. So we kind of we project our sell-through rate for the week, and so we normally don't have, stale products staying out there over 2-3 weeks. And product is stored in a climate-controlled, secured, inventory room. So it's not just staying out there.
Okay. Now, the traffic and the parking as dispensary impact. Where would they deliver the trucks? I guess the only way is in the front?
Yeah. Access is kind of restricted here. We just have two access points to the front of the store. So
Okay, because the back, the setback, it's like not, how many feet is that?
yeah, no, it's not possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so the only way is to the front, so you're gonna have personnel there for security purposes?
Oh yeah. There'll be armed security there, and it's a procedure where we coordinate with our retail operations team, our distribution team, and our security team on site.
Okay, now the waste disposal. How will the cannabis waste be disposed? For instance, because I know where the dumpsters are, the trash disposals are there,
So
but how would the,
Sure. So, first of all, we're not going to have much as far as cannabis disposal. The only time we'll actually have that is because we're not manufacturing there or cultivating there. And so the only time we're really going to be having cannabis waste at all is if we have a customer who returns a defective product, or if there's some kind of, we see a product that's expired for some reason, and that's very, very rare. And so even though it is rare, what we do is we take those cannabis products and we put them in a bin in the secure inventory area, and we have our own third-party vendor called MetaWaste who comes and picks up the limited amount of cannabis waste once or twice a week. But again, it's a very limited amount because we're not really doing any manufacturing, and all the products we get are in packages that eventually get sold to customers, and the only time we would eventually have any cannabis waste is if somebody was to return it and we have to throw it away ourselves.
okay. And for emergency protocols, would that be a staff question?
There's a requirement that they have a security plan that they'll be submitting along with their the time of their building permits. So all of that sort of stuff is covered in there, and it's reviewed by the police department.
Okay. And as well the fire department, correct?
Pardon me?
As well as the fire department?
Yeah. This fire department will be reviewing all of the construction plans. So anything structural that they need will be addressed then. That's routine for every application.
No further questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate
you.
you. All right, where we go? Are we back to planning commission? Have any questions of staff? Can we go there?
You can ask if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak.
Yeah, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this issue? Nope, quiet lunch today. Okay.
I had one question, but I'm not sure how to address it here. And it's concerning the application itself.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here, just one second. Am I able to discuss this with you just for a second to see if this is even,
Yeah, we can do that.
can I just, okay.
Do I? All right, so we're gonna hang out. Yeah, I think Greg's the only one who can answer my questions, so that works. I said I have questions, but I think Greg is the only one to answer the questions I have, so.
Okay, we're back to a quorum.
Question was answered, so
Oh, all right, cool.
no need to discuss it here.
Cool. So we're continuing on with questions of staff. Actually, Jen, did you have questions of staff? Let you go first.
No questions for staff.
So questions of staff. First one was on the conditions. So I want to start with condition number 10.
Okay,
With the FSUS video surveillance.
right.
Can you explain, just define what is the FSUS video surveillance? What does that specifically mean?
Yeah, that's a Hawthorne Police Department system where they for most businesses it's encouraged. For cannabis businesses, it's required. It's a link up that the police can use to get access to their cameras at any time, and live monitor situations. But also, as the applicant said, they keep tapes for 90 days and stuff. So through FUSA's system, they can access all of that kind of stuff too. So they are all over the city currently in different places, and it's just, since it's integrated into the security system of the business, it's not visible to the public. Although there are some in public places too, I understand.
Okay. When we designed the video surveillance system for the cannabis retail system or business, do we have any particular locations where cameras are placed in this particular video?
Yes, that's part of the security plan, and that's not included because anything that gets before you guys is in the public record, and we're not going to
That's fair.
show where every single camera is.
That's very fair.
Okay.
So the other question is just when we're talking about access that the police have to this, is it live access? Oh, is it live access, like we're access 100% of the time, or is this something that the police would need to make a request to say, hey, they would like to see something that's going
No,
on?
they can access the cameras anytime they want. They won't be necessarily having a display running all the time because each of these businesses is going to have upwards of 20 plus cameras.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay. Where was the other one? Okay, the last one. And then the last one on the surveillance system, will the public be notified that there is continual recording going on in the situation?
I do not believe that's required.
Um,
If I'm mistaken, then I might be
just
mistaken.
so this gets to why I ask the questions. I think you all know part of my profession is doing data privacy. So understanding people's privacy when they come into a specific place is understanding whether or not they would like to consent to being recorded in these spaces. So just asking that question.
I think that's a question you could ask the applicant if they know the answer. You could also make a condition that states that such a sign be posted, and the reason why that might not be objectionable is because it would, alert people that they're being
That's all.
watched.
Simply that part of letting people know or understand what's going on.
But if
in
you
the
are
public space.
considering putting that in as a condition, I would recommend that you run it past the applicant to see if they need to tweak the language or anything.
That makes sense. I wasn't so much there, and I honestly think there'll probably be a question of asking the police department if that makes sense or is counterintuitive to their security plan, but just the thing I wanted to understand. And then also, the landscape plans, I wanted to understand, the lot that the applicant is in is not they don't own that property so much as they are tenant there. So do they have the ability to do the landscaping there, or would that be something we'd have to work with the property?
No, they do not have the ability to change all the landscaping without the cooperation of the landlord, who would probably be grateful if they did it all. But we're not going to require an upgrade of the entire site. We're just asking for the part that is adjacent to their tenant space.
Gotcha. Okay.
To the chair real quick. I think on that, the security, the video surveillance, that would fall under corporate protection, in my opinion.
That is I get it. You keep I don't get it. Explain.
Yeah. You don't want to be streaming live because anybody, I would assume that anybody can look in and say, hey, you know, this is a good opportunity for theft and
Oh, no, no.
so
So the difference in that, we're not saying live streaming as if it was live streamed to public. It's live streamed to police department. So the police department has access to it at any point in time. So the question was simply asking about whether or not patrons would know they were being recorded. I think of it like
I see exactly what you're talking about now.
I think of it like the grocery
Yeah.
store. Like when you walk down the aisles, there's certain signs that say, "Hey, look, you're being recorded," that you know when you're in space.
Oh.
But that's all. That's all.
And just for clarification, I'm certain the police don't intend to watch these all the time. They're
I know they do. There's no way they have time.
they probably, if there's an incident call, they'll, while they're dispatching, they'll flip the camera over to monitor the situation.
Oh, of course. Not tr- that's, the police and I have had extensive conversations about this for the particular one that's nearby my house at the park, which I'm like, who spends all day watching this? There's no way you're doing it. So just understand it. All right. Other than that, I have no further questions. Okay. So we've got the questions. So are there any documents to place into administrative record?
There are none.
Do my fellow commissioners have any final comments or questions for staff on this item?
No further questions?
Nobody?
No further questions.
Okay, I will now formally close the public hearing on these items. Do I have a motion to approve or?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Will the secretary please call for the vote?
Vice Chairperson Cohens,
Yes.
Commissioner
Excuse me,
Houston,
Yes.
Yes.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
This application for conditional use permit is approved. And moving on, with the next application is another cannabis conditional use permit. This is 2023-13 with a design review application 2023-15. And next is your line.
Oh, sorry. We're on 13, or we just did it?
We're on number 4, yeah.
4. Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider conditional use permit 2023-13 and design review application DR 2315. Director Greg McLean will present the staff report.
Okay, so again, this is another cannabis retail CUP, but this one also includes a consumption area. And this one is for Catalyst, and they're proposing to be located at 14115 Crenshaw Boulevard in Suites 7 through 10. So this is the location. So this one is also on Crenshaw Boulevard, but this is down by Rosecrans Avenue, so it's just around the corner from Rosecrans. And this is in an M1 zone. This is the building, and I didn't get a close-up of this tenant space because the whole building looks pretty much the same, but a little picture in the bottom shows that it's a consistent design just like the last one was, so there's not a whole lot to talk about in terms of design review on this building with regard to the exterior, because they're not proposing to change it. This is the site plan. I think I might have, no, yeah, it's the white part on the middle left that is the space. I think, oh good, I did highlight it. That's the tenant space. Those other bits that are in gray are other tenants. This is what the building looks like, and that's what they're proposing that it should look like, so there's really no change other than signs going up. This is the space that they'll occupy, and it's in the back of the lot. This is a floor plan, and I'll go through similar to what I did with the last one. Here's the entrance lobby. Oh, that's too bad. That in white letters it says lobby. So just imagine, okay. And this is a representation of what the lobby might look like. Next is the retail. This is the retail floor, as it says in white. I don't know why. It was black on my computer, but anyway, this is what they're proposing it would look like roughly. This is the consumption area, or lounge, if you will. And I got a couple of pictures of what that might look like. So here's like a kind of a bar, I guess, where you can sit and have the bud tender prepare your cannabis. This is a little enclosed area, sort of a pod. Here's another one. So it's a nice, clean, well lit, and very good visibility all throughout. That's the proposal basically. But this one does include landscape plans, so I suppose they have the cooperation of the landlord. And it's a nice palette. It's all you know, climate appropriate. So we've got some agaves and some flowering. I think it's either sage or lavender. It's probably sage. And so we like this, you know, because it's drought tolerant and, you know, it works well for the climate. And it will be an upgrade over what's out there now. So this is also the conditions of approval. Actually, I think I'm not going to read them all this time because it's the same list that we went through with the other one, with the exception of there's 2 conditions related to consumption area, and number 22 is specifically about the ventilation system. All the other conditions are pretty much essentially the same as the previous application. Now, there are 2 conditions that the applicant did ask to be amended, and we've agreed to that, and the amendments are really quite minor in from our perspective. I think more important to the applicant, but that includes condition number 3 and condition number 31. So I'll just read a part of it. Condition number 3 said that let's see, relationship of CUP conditions, laws, and other entitlements is the title of it. The permittee shall implement the project in compliance with all applicable requirements and enactments of federal, state, and local authorities. That's what it used to say. Now we're adding to that, except those federal requirements and enactments which ban the sale or use of cannabis. So in other words, the federal laws that are contrary to the state law are not part of this condition, but other federal laws such as, you know, child labor laws or things like that, those are still applicable. That's all we're doing.
There we go.
Number 31 is very similar language. It just uses federal laws and regulations instead of requirements and enactments. So we've made that change in the copy that's available for the chairperson to sign if this is approved. And that brings us to the recommendation. There's a lot more to these applications, as you heard from the previous applicant. I'm strictly focusing on the land uses here, but if you have questions about, you know, the benefits or things like the other applicant brought up, you're welcome to talk about those to the applicant, but I don't include those in here because it's not strictly a land use matter. Okay, so our recommendation is that you adopt the resolution 2023-24, approving the conditional use permit and the design review. This applicant does not have a presentation, but you might have questions, and if so, oh, I'm sorry, don't have a visual presentation, just a speaking.
Oh, you have space, don't worry.
Okay.
We were going to skip over you, don't worry.
I know.
Okay, so that concludes my
speak for
part.
Okay, We'll save questions for staff after this. So is the applicant present? And it appears, or would you like to speak?
I am president.
All right. Would you? Yeah, the floor is yours, Fred.
Thank you so much, Chair. Good evening, Planning Commission, city staff, the public that's still here. My name is Damian Martin, owner/member and LLC manager of Catalyst Hawthorne LLC. I'm also the applicant representative. With me, just because we think it's important to bring the entire ownership team to show the level of commitment that we have. So I have Elliot Lewis. He's one of our LLC managers, owner/members as well. He's also the founder and CEO of Catalyst Cannabis Co. Roger Zalgado. He's our CFO, owner and member as well. Amy Pagel, Chief Operations Officer, owner and member as well. And I have with us as Aaron Bagley. He's not one of our owners and members, but he is our contractor. So that he's available here to get into more technical aspects of the construction and the project if we so go down this road. I will note with him that he has built and designed 26 Catalyst facilities? Yep. 26. So with that point in mind, these owner members here that we have today, one, it's an incredibly diverse ownership team. And that's something that we take a great deal of pride in because it diversifies the ownership tent of Catalyst Cannabis Co. And we think that's vital to, what we're trying to build here with our company. Furthermore, this ownership team, on some level, is operating now one of the most successful cannabis companies in the entire state of California, and I'd say the United States and the world. We just opened our 26th store today. What I'd like to emphasize with that, though, is we've built a successful company, but we've built it the right way. So what I'm really going to touch upon here, because the staff report kind of speaks for itself, and with that, we also are speaking in advocacy for the staff recommendation to be approved here tonight, which is to approve our project. But what I really want to touch upon is our community benefits. Our business model mantra slogan is weed for the people, and we take that near and dear to our heart. And what that means for how we operate our business is that when we go into a community, we don't just view our owners, investors, and our customers as the stakeholders in the business. Rather, we view the entire community as stakeholders in the business. We want the entire community to benefit from our business, even though they may never walk into our store and purchase or consume cannabis. So with that point in mind, we have a community engagement arm. It's called Catalyst Cares. We do a number of incredible community outreach efforts footprint-wide. For example, we do expungement clinics. We do backpack giveaways, feminine hygiene product giveaways. We do veteran cannabis product giveaways to veterans. And with that point in mind, we've already started our community engagement here in the city of Hawthorne. So we have a community benefits package in our application. It's $125,000 a year for donations to the community. And we've already started to partner with really fantastic and fabulous organizations towards that end. For example, California Youth Karate Club. On that note, we've also, already started getting our hands dirty in the community, so to speak. So on July 15th, we did a community cleanup. It went from Crenshaw to Prairie, and we picked up 400 pounds of trash. And not only that, the cleanup was covered on Hawthorne TV. And we think that's really important because you guys have went out on a limb with this cannabis policy here in the city of Hawthorne. Just having dispensaries is kind of groundbreaking enough, but you've taken it a step further and said, hey, we're going to have consumption lounges. So with that point in mind, we think that integration with the community, acceptance within the community is key to kind of getting over that learning curve and showing that our business is actually going to do a lot of great things with the community. Beyond just the community benefits itself, I want to emphasize our job creation. How many jobs? Like 45? 53 jobs we think that this operation can create. It's going to create a lot of jobs because it's an integrated operation. It's not just a dispensary. It's a dispensary, consumption lounge, delivery service, and distribution operation. The minimum wage, just pay-wise, is $18 an hour. All of our employees are represented by UFCW. They get health benefits as well. If you calculate the health benefits into that, the actual starting wage is about $21.50 an hour. That's way above a living wage for a single family or family of two. In any case, so it's well beyond the living wage. And really, what's really important and critical with that is we have committed to providing 50% of our hours and positions to Hawthorne residents. And now taking that back, talking about our community benefits, our community partners, as far as how we're going to actually staff those jobs, we've already partnered with the South Bay Workforce Investment Board and Career Expansion Incorporated. We have binding community benefits agreements, and we're going to work with them to ensure that we hire locally. And then that we hire locally, these are like good, sustainable jobs that members of the community can take and then stay and actually live in Hawthorne. So that's really all I have to add to what staff has already presented. We're here to take any kind of question you can have with this. We're really excited and proud to talk over our business. And really the kind of key feature and kind of underlying all these things I talked about, we are so proud and excited and humbled and honored to have this opportunity to potentially come into the city of Hawthorne and do this really groundbreaking business, but do it the right way and create a win for the city, the community, and people coming into Hawthorne from outside the community. This is going to be something that brings people into the city and gets them to spend their money. Thank you.
Rob, any questions of the applicant?
Thank you for that. And I love the fact that you are doing 50% of the jobs for Hawthorne residents. I think that's amazing. So thank you, and Hawthorne residents, thank you for that. That's awesome. My only question is, could you just walk me through the consumption area of how it works? I know you come in, that you can just go in, and can you just walk me through that? I've never been to
so
one.
actually how it works is if you want to, because the way the state regulations are set up, the state hasn't figured this out. That's kind of how out on the limb that you guys are forward thinking about this, that you are. They haven't really figured that out to integrate the things together. So what you actually do is if you want to consume in the consumption lounge, you go into the dispensary, you purchase your product, and then after you've done that, you could go home, or you can go into the consumption lounge, and the consumption lounge is essentially like a separate premises. And then once you're in the consumption lounge, you have all these seating areas that are, they're covered by this high-tech ventilation. Aaron and Amy could talk about more detail than I can, but these beautiful seating areas with this ventilation to prevent the consumption from going outside, or the odor going outside the community. Since actually we're on the subject, I meant to touch on this during my talk, but I want to touch on it now. Talking about community integration, there was two concerns that were presented in the staff report. There were overcrowding and noise. So just so you understand, we went out, we actually knocked on the doors of our neighbors and heard what they wanted. That's actually how we came up with the idea to do a community cleanup. They said, hey, that alley looks terrible, man. Could somebody do something about that? And we're like, yes, we can. But another thing that's related to that, and that ties back into the noise piece on the staff report, is our initial concept of this project when we submitted originally, when it was just hey, put an idea on paper without necessarily it being tied to the building, we're going to have a stage for live music. But after we, knocked on the doors and saw we had neighbors right in the back, we scrapped the idea for the live stage because we don't want noise to disturb the neighbors. So what are events and, live events you want to talk about that we're going to actually have in this consumption round? They're going to be really cannabis consumption related product, vendors are going to come in and showcase their product, things of that nature, rather than having, big old party with a lot of loud music. And then also, you don't know this now, and you'll just kind of have to take my word for it at the moment, but once we get up and going, you're going to see it live in the flesh. Cannabis consumers are a whole different vibe and crowd from alcohol and bar establishments. They're really chill ultimately. And then what I think you're going to find, I know, right, is that when you actually have people in this establishment, you're not going to get police call outs for fights or people doing dumb stuff in the parking lot or whatever it is. You're going to have people just come, chill out, I think more of an upscale type of crowd, and they're going home, right? But before they go home, they're going to, put some money in the coffers of, the city of Hawthorne, because, all these operations are taxed. And actually, I'll add that since we're here, I'll probably digress it a little bit, but, we're talking an operation like this is going to put $1 million per fiscal year in, I think, minimum in the city's coffers, and I'm telling you that from experience. Our last fiscal year in the city of Bellflower, we have a similar operation, no consumption lounge, mind you. I got the receipts, as they say, as the kids say. We paid that city over $1 million in tax. On the overcrowding, since we're on the subject, we have this beautiful, bountiful parking lot. We actually selected this site on purpose with the parking lot in mind. We find that sites with the big parking lot adjacent to arterial roads like Crenshaw, like we're here, we are with here, have the best performance, and then also have the least impact on the neighborhood in so doing.
Great. Thank you. That answers my question. The one last question about the consumption area is there any, besides fire entrances and exits, is there a separate entrance to that area, or do you have to go in through the front and then in through the back?
No, there's a separate entrance, right? Although it would be connected to the lobby, correct me if I'm wrong.
There is a separate entrance because we require controlled access for everyone going into the consumption lounge, and particularly we require them to be filtered through the secondary security guard who's stationed in that area.
Perfect. Thank you so much. No further questions.
Thank you, Amy.
You go.
I was going to ask about the pods. I was trying to figure out what these pods were. Is there,
My
I guess-
term, it may not be what they call them.
The pods are just where the patron is sitting consuming the cannabis, and the reason why we call it a pod is because there's separate. It's enclosed with its own odor control and ventilation associated with it. That's why there's a pod, so to speak.
if you, just for knowledge, when they consume so forth, and then you have the ventilation system, how long does it take to clean up the area?
Yeah, that's like
That's what they brought me here for.
I'm done.
I'm Aaron Begg with Delta Construction. I'm a licensed general electrical and mechanical contractor. We designed these spaces, especially this one in mind. We took extra care with it and designed the separate pods have their own ventilation system with odor control as well as smoke control. These filtration systems are 2,000 CFM apiece. There's a total of 4 of these. So the total ventilation is 8,000 CFM. The total volume of the space is a little bit over 16,000 CFM. You're getting 2 air exchanges, or an air exchange every 2 minutes. So it's well above the required mechanical code for this. In addition, just to make sure that we're cautious for, spreading germs and the rest of it in these kind of spaces, all of the HVAC ventilation systems are independent per each pod. And then within the general consumption area is independent. So really took a lot of care in making sure that this facility was going to be safe, was going to be odor-free, the smoke was going to be ventilated properly, and that the facility was going to be something that we could look at and say, hey, this is the model for a cannabis facility, or a consumption facility.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I love hearing you talk, dude.
And what about waste disposal?
So our waste disposal practices are the same as Steezy's. We actually use the same waste management company, in fact, which is we don't throw cannabis in the trash. You can see why that could become a problem. Like, hey, bud, there's a big old bag of cannabis in the trash. So all product that needs to be disposed of, which to the last presenters or applicants' point were expired product. There's also little sample jars that has the flower that like patrons can smell and look at more deeply. They don't. They can't like touch it and run off with it. That ends up in the waste disposal bin. But the waste disposal bin is locked itself, and then is locked within the secure storage area. And then not only that, before it is picked up, it gets mixed with sawdust. And then the magic words in the regulations are it has to be rendered unretrievable and unrecognizable. So that way, again, if it inadvertently ends up in the trash, even if it were in that case, it would be like, oh my goodness, the cannabis flower is covered in sawdust and is unusable. But in any case, it's stored there and then is securely picked up by a waste disposal company. And again, we use the same company. It's called MediWaste. And these waste disposal companies are actually just glorified cannabis distributors. So they go through the same licensing process for cannabis distribution wherever they're based. And then with the state of California for the state license. And again, so it's basically, it's the equivalent of distribution, but instead of bringing products to our facility, they're taking it away. And again, it's done with the whole coordination, the security, and it's in a lock box, and the lock box is in the locked storage area.
And your deliveries are going to be, since there's enough room, I'm going to assume that there's no problem with the trucks or delivery being, is this the back? Is that where they pick up? Or, I'm sorry, where do they deliver?
Well, so there's 2 things here. There's distribution, where a distributor is a truck that's coming to the facility and then dropping off product in its wholesale form to be broken down by us and eventually sold at retail. Then there's delivery in the form of, hey, we're going to load up a car with retail product and deliver it to a company's address. And they're similar in the sense that it's all done very highly secure in the sense like the distribution trucks all have cameras, GPS tracking, lock boxes, same with the delivery vehicles. When it comes to the facility, it's coordinated with security, so this armed security guard is standing outside with the truck while the product's being ferried into the store. And then it's really just vice versa for delivery in terms of hey, we're going to load up a car with a little bit of product, security's going to be made aware of it, The delivery vehicle has tracking on it with GPS. They have like some means for contacting security and law enforcement immediately if it were to get like waylaid or something. Also, it doesn't have any kind of signage on it or anything that would be indicative of being associated with a cannabis delivery or cannabis distribution. It's really just where's the truck going? In one case, the truck is coming to us. In the distribution, for the waste management, the truck is leaving us. And in the case of retail delivery, the car is leaving our facility and eventually coming back to load up more product.
And then this is the last question. I know I had a lot of questions, but just to be fair,
That's
I did
the
ask it from
question.
the other people here.
I want to get the same
So
amount
the
so that we
energy
feel
usage,
that you equally care about us.
Energy usage, what measures are being taken for energy efficiency? Because cannabis cultivation and product storage can be energy intensive.
Yeah, we take great care in that too. We comply fully with Title 24, Part 6, the energy efficiency code. And so from the lighting throughout, we take what I do, I'm a licensed electrical contractor, and what I do in our designs is make sure that we're well below the requirements. So on average, we're around 0.2 watts per square foot for our lighting. Most facilities are around 0.5 watts per square foot, and we look at a wattage to lumens ratio and have really, really efficient fixtures. And so that's one savings. The biggest savings is through our mechanical systems. So the mechanical systems that I had mentioned before for this facility are anywhere from a 19 to a 22 SEER. Your code requirement is actually a 14 SEER system. So with that, they also come equipped with motion sensors. If someone's not in a room, that it'll go from 72 degrees to 78 degrees or whatever that is. So you're not conditioning rooms that are unoccupied. They also have infrared sensors. And these are all new code requirements that we're complying with. But they'll have infrared sensors, and they're going to blow hot air in cool spots and vice versa, cool air at hot spots. So this basically is, if you're going to compare this to a LEED building, it's almost there, really.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. With a couple small tweaks, we would be fully LEED compliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. No more questions.
Alrighty, thank you.
Wait, I'm gonna ask my questions of you, sir.
Is it for him or?
So first questions. When we're talking about capacity, the pods we mentioned. So are the pods single occupancy each time?
This is an Amy question.
It's an Amy.
No, they are not. The pods are intended for small groups of people to enhance privacy, and once people cluster together, it tends to congest the smoke. So we're focusing the HVAC on areas where small groups of people will be seated.
What is a small group?
A small group of people is going to be anywhere up to 6 individuals.
Okay.
We do have a larger pod, which we're calling the VIP pod, which I believe seats 12.
Okay, and then you mentioned there was a general consumption area. Is there capacity on that area? How many people could be in that at one time?
The capacity on the consumption area, I believe, is approximately 80. Aaron, do you have any better on that?
I do, yeah. So in order to comply with the B occupancy, otherwise it'd be considered assembly, and we'd have some rating issues and some other issues that we work through with planning or with the architect and with building and safety. We also talked to the fire department on their review, and it was deemed that what would be best would be to be 49 occupants or less.
The 49?
49 or less, yeah, so that we're a B occupancy instead of an A occupancy. There's an exit door that we decided with fire to keep in place so that we have 2 exit doors, even though that's not a code requirement, just in the event that there's, people clustering and anything's there. So we're really above and beyond in terms of meeting fire code regulations. But that consumption lounge, the max occupancy is going to be dictated because the way we did the design will be dictated by the fixed seats. So yeah, 49 is our max occupancy.
Perfect. Okay. And this is just a business function question. So I know you have a max occupancy of 49. So do you have a time limit of how long folks can stay in individual spaces?
For our launch, we do not, although we project to impose a 2-hour limit as we reach capacity in operations.
Okay. And also to comply, same thing, when you're having folks that are consuming on site, is there someone on site to make sure that we're not allowing those folks who may be impaired when they leave for that safety kind of?
Certainly. The consumption lounge will be staffed by bud tenders, similarly to the sales floor. They'll provide guidance and oversight in addition to the security guard who will be stationed there for admitting individuals.
Gotcha. Okay. And then this is a design question. I meant to ask about the on the last applicant as well. Since we're talking about we're not changing much of the facade of the building, many of the dispensaries we'll see now, they, from the outside, what you're only able to see is the lobby. So with a consumption area like this, or would you be able to see from the street into the consumption
No.
area, or is this just where it's?
No, and I believe that's even covered as one of the conditions.
Okay, just make it sure, because when I looked at the facade, I saw that. Just wanted to be sure. Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. Yeah, I have a comment, but we'll wait till we get to that point. So, is there anyone who wishes to address the Planning Commission on this issue? Anyone else, members of the public? No? Okay. For McLean, any items to place into administrative record?
No.
Outside of any of the commissioners have any comments
I
about
do.
this one? Yeah.
To the chair. And I'm going back to the emergency protocol, and I'm doing it as a precaution for the residents around, in the sense of if there's a fire, say that there's a fire or something, and is there a plan in place? I mean, I know that it's required, but is there a physical plan in place if that happens, already set and completed?
You mean to prevent the neighborhood from getting high? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
That's a good question, but I think the applicant might be better prepared to answer it than me.
So you're
I will attempt to answer the question, although if I go in the wrong direction, please guide me. We definitely have evacuation procedures in place, fire escape procedures in place. Numerous emergency procedures are in place. They were not required as part of the submission for our application, but they are available and on file throughout our other 26 locations. So the answer to the question is yes, we have those procedures in place. Will the neighborhood get high? I cannot speak as to that, but our security
they
guards
will
will be
not.
present, and they will be remaining secure on the premises.
Unless they come there.
The building will be sprinklered.
The security guards will remain posted, of course, during any type of emergency.
the security guards will get high.
I know.
No
I
comment.
know. The armed securities.
No comment.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
No, I'm good.
All right. So just to comment on this, I wanted to say something specifically about this application that I appreciate is that you mentioned this during your presentation. You brought your ownership team here, and I really do appreciate that. We've discussed this before about having folks come and present to the Planning Commission, and we don't see everyone here. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to even step out of your day and just be here, because it does show that you care about this project, you care about the city, and those are the kind of developers we like to see in the city. So I just wanted to take the time to personally commend you guys for stepping in here and doing that. I do think this design was very thoughtfully put together, even down to the way you guys did the pods or the lounge part of it. So again, just I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this works with everyone. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
And to the chair, I actually concur with Commissioner Richards on that. I like the diversity. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see more women, though, right?
Well, to be totally fair, so we have two owners that were unable to make it this evening because of personal things that they're dealing with. One, her name is Hazel Martinez.
Okay.
She's an owner/member and LLC manager. And then Amber Tovar, she's our community liaison and owner/member as well. So they're here. We just, bad luck that they weren't able to make it. But yes, if you saw the full ownership team, you would see two additional women. But they just weren't, like I said, it's crazy out there with the weather and everything else.
Yeah.
If I might add, there was a lengthy selection process to pick the top applicants, and diversity of ownership was one of many considerations that went into scoring them.
Well, it looks like this application process went very well, because this was a stellar first showing of folks coming out. And I, again, commend you guys for that. Look forward to continuing to see all of you all around the city with all your efforts. So.
You know what? I should have added to that. Thank you very much, Chair, first of all. But to that point, we got 100 turkeys showing up tomorrow for the city's turkey giveaway.
Nice.
Our political community campaigns senior manager, Andres Rivera, is handling that. So
Thank you
we're
guys.
committed to being here. We want to be here. We're super excited and can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Right. Well, so those are the end of the county. So at this point, I'll formally close the public hearing on these items, and will entertain a motion to approve the application.
A motion?
I second.
Will Secretary please call for the vote?
Commissioner Houston,
Approve.
Vice Chairperson Collins,
Approve.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Okay, this one's approved.
Planning Commission, thank you very much.
Thank
Same
you.
to you,
Thank
staff.
Thank you for your business.
Oh,
Last on the agenda today, we have the Zone Text Amendment CA 2023-6.
now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider Zone Text Amendment ZA 2023-06. Director Greg McLean will present the staff report.
Okay, thank you. This is the commercials, what is it? Mixed use, I think it's called commercial mix. We just call it CM zone development standards. So a little bit of background. In March of 2022, the City Council adopted the 2021-2029 housing element, which was before the deadline. We're one of only a few cities in the area that succeeded there, I'm proud to say. And then in the same month, the Department of Housing and Community Development certified our housing element, which relieved us from a lot of bad things that could have happened that are happening to other cities. So that's good, but when you do a housing element, you have certain commitments to make, okay? And so we had an ordinance, 4 ordinances, I mean, in September of 2023 to implement those commitments. The first ordinance was all of the housing element program implementation. So that was the housing overlay, which is a new overlay. We made a few changes to various standards, basic stuff, all the stuff that was basically promised in the housing element. However, there was an error with regard to the development standards for the CM zone. And so at the time that that ordinance was introduced, I pulled that section out and asked them to introduce it without it. This is that part that was pulled being resubmitted. So that's what I just said. And then in last night, they approved that ordinance. So that's all good. Now we just have to finish this with the last bit. So we are way ahead of everyone else. Not necessarily literally everyone, but most of the cities in the state in terms of complying with our obligations following our housing element. They give you 3 years to do this, and we're at 1 year point right now. So we're in good standing. So let me show you where the CM zone is. This is the map of the city, and you don't have to see the details because that area roughly is where the CM zone is. And if I zoom in on it, the purple, so it's north of the railroad tracks that are near 126th Street, on both sides of the street, up to 116th Street, and going back to the first street to the east or west, with the exception that it passes through Hawthorne Way and goes over to Gravilla. So that's it. That's the only area of the city we're dealing with here. Okay. Now that I would also say that last night they adopted the ordinance that changed the zone on all of those properties to conform with the specific plan that we had adopted several years ago. So there's 4 changes that are proposed in this ordinance. I'm sorry, 5 changes. There's the minimum lot area, the density and intensity, the setbacks, height, and the dwelling unit size. So we'll go through each of these. The minimum lot area was formerly 2 acres to do a mixed-use project. With a requirement like that, you'll never get any applications. So we've lowered it to 1 acre with the hope to see that we can, see some mixed-use development take off in that area. So it may not be enough. We may go lower later, but that would be another ordinance if we do that. So for now, we're lowering it to 1 acre for minimum for mixed use. Commercial does not have a minimum, and strictly residential only applies to the. I'm trying to remember what I did with that one. I'm sorry, I just drew a blank of what I changed in that one, but I think that one is only applicable to the site that's occupied by the mall right now. So density and intensity. The changes being made here, first of all, we're returning the density back to 30 units to the acre. That was the original density when the downtown Hawthorne specific plan was adopted in 2015-ish. And it was changed to 24, I think, or something in the 20s. And as a result, it dropped below the threshold that the state considers appropriate for counting in your housing element as potential housing for affordability. So by doing that, the city had disqualified that entire area from being counted toward the requirement for what we call RHNA, which is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation that's given to every city. We had a number over 1,700 this time, so we couldn't just let a whole swath of the city of downtown go without putting that back up to 30 so we can count those properties as well. We also reset the mix of commercial. We had previously had it set at 40%. I think that prior to that it was lower even. It was something like 20%. So the city raised it to 40%, and 40% of a mixed-use project being devoted to commercial means you will never have that mixed-use project. It just is not feasible. It's not viable for anybody to build it. So after discussing with various developers of mixed-use projects, we've set it the minimum at 5%. The sweet spot, from what I understand, for these kind of developments is between 5 and 10%. So we'll probably have a few that are over 5%, but that's the minimum I'm proposing here. Also, we're removing the building footprint limit, which was 90% of the lot area. We're basically saying that that doesn't apply here anymore. We have setbacks that are still applicable. So having this additional layer is just in one more impediment to getting a mixed-use project built. So speaking of setbacks, the revisions that were put into the code several years ago had very onerous setbacks for properties adjacent to residential. And what it amounted to in the example I'm showing here in the middle of the paragraph is that if you had a 4-story building, that would have to be set back 40 feet from the residential area. That's and if it was, higher, it would just keep going. It would just keep getting bigger. Now, 40 feet is a very, very large setback, and if you if there's no access to it, you can't put parking there or anything. It's asking a lot of somebody to, give up that much land, and it was also, killing any potential for mixed-use developments. So what we're proposing instead is that we have a normal setback, which was 10 feet from a residential area, and apply that to the first 2 stories so that it would be on even par with the residents themselves. They have the same setback then. But then going up from there, every story above the 2nd floor would have to be set back according to how high a building is. So that's a much more reasonable approach to this. On height, this was really not a very extensive change. There was a detailed, complicated process to take chunks out of the massing of a building that is over 10 acres. There's only one building or one property that could even accommodate a 10-acre building, right? And that is the mall site. Upon reflection, any development that happens there will have to come to the Planning Commission for design review. And so we can address massing there. But if there's any place in the city where you want to do some massing, that's probably the place on the frontage of Hawthorne Boulevard. So we're just asking that just be removed altogether. Dwelling unit area is a particularly sensitive one for the state, and a lot of cities over the years have put high minimum dwelling unit sizes. I'm not an economist, but whenever you start requiring the units to get bigger, they do get more expensive, right? So this is actually hampering affordability. So we're just removing those. When I was working for Gardena, there was a developer that came through and did 400 square foot apartments. And that sounds unbelievably small. But I toured these, and when you're in them, and if you're just a single person, it's actually quite manageable. It's not bad. It's not as cramped as you feel. And the point I think the state is trying to make here is that there are people for which that is the best and most appropriate size of a unit. And if it's not you, don't rent it, you know? So this is a way of opening up the market to more diverse portfolio of units. So we think this might help. We hope that we aren't going to see, you know, ridiculously small units, but even at 400 square feet, as I said, a single person could live there fine, as long as they don't have a lot of stuff. So again, our recommendation is to make or approve the resolution, which makes the recommendation to the City Council to adopt the ordinance that addresses these development standards in the CM zone. Now, I just want to reiterate, though, that the CM zone is a very limited space between 116th and 126th Street on Hawthorne Boulevard. And this is the area where we're hoping to actually see some significant mixed-use developments. And maybe not every single one of these is essential, but working together, they have absolutely prevented any development at all. So that concludes my presentation.
All right. Does the Planning Commission have any questions of staff?
Well, I just wanted to talk about RENA, but
Okay.
Oh, no.
I know. I don't like it either. So the number's at 1,792, am I right?
I know the 1,700 part's right. I think the 92 is correct.
Has an appeal been made? When is that appeal, and is somebody on top of that, just in case?
We're way past that.
Are we?
Years past that point. And
Okay.
the thing about appeals, where many cities do appeal, and they're only ever granted if there's actually a calculation error or some other kind of egregious error like that. They never grant an appeal that is based on your assertion that it's too much, because they would just have to give those numbers to other cities. And so over the years, through many cycles of the housing element, the only appeals that are being approved ever are when there was a typo, basically. So no, this was not appealed by the City of Hawthorne.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I wasn't here at the time, but I was in an adjoining city, a smaller city that got a much higher number. So to be honest, Hawthorne got a good low number relative to the surrounding cities. So it's probably good.
Did you say they got a low or high? What was
got
it?
a much higher.
Oh, much higher.
Yeah, much higher. There are cities that are smaller than us that got into the
72,
six
Manhattan.
and 7 or 8,000s. So this was one time where if I were here, I would have recommended keep quiet, because if you squeak too loud, you might end up getting more, you know. But nonetheless, the reason our housing element was approved was because we found enough sites to accommodate all of those. Now, for the public's benefit, we don't have to ensure these are built exactly. I mean, there's some of that, but for the most part, our job at this point was just to make sure that the sites were available in the sense that they were developable and they weren't slated to be built into something else. And the commercial manufacturer, I'm sorry, I think that's the old name for it, the CM zone was a very important component to this. To get it back up to 30 is fine, but the state still wouldn't accept it unless we had made some of these other changes, because, you know, if you're going to have 40-foot setbacks, or if you're going to have, you know, some of the other things like the minimum unit sizes, 30 is never going to happen either, right? So we look at it, incidentally, that removing the unit sizes is probably the best thing, because that makes more room for amenities and improves the quality of life for the residents, and it also improves the quality of the project. So on that note, I'd say that's a good thing. But a lot of the other stuff, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for RENA, we probably wouldn't be doing this. But I don't think this is a bad move. I really think that all of these are very positive steps to help achieve some mixed-use projects on Hawthorne Boulevard.
It's just getting smaller and smaller, the ratios, when, you know, I'm looking at the setbacks but it is dead space, so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're still ensuring that people are not building to the property lines. I mean, you know, we're respecting the residential neighbors, but there aren't very many of the properties that have this as an issue, because this zone runs to the street on the opposite side through the block. So it's probably, I haven't checked, but it may not even be applicable to anyone.
I think you just answered. I think you just answered my question about the minimum limits. So, Jen, do you have questions?
I don't have any questions. I just have a lot of opinions, but I don't think this is the place for it.
this
we'll
is the
get there.
place.
okay, that's what I was hoping
Don't
for. That's what I was
worry,
like,
we have-
nah, just kind of hold back.
We have a spot. We have a spot for that. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Motion to approve?
Is there
Oh.
any member of the, I have to say this, is anyone in the public who would like to address the planning commission on this issue? Seeing no public, we're gonna,
There's no
no
public.
one. Mr. McLean, are there any administrative documents to place in the record?
There are none.
Okay. Now we do this. Do we have any final comments on this? Comments or questions for staff? Jen, you got the
Sure. I'm just going to put my comments out there for the record, is that, you know, I feel that these feel like Band-Aid fixes for problems that we have that aren't solving bigger issues. I appreciate your effort and your very thoughtfulness into solving the task that was given to you, and I think you did do a very good job in solving for those problems, so thank you for that. But bringing more people in smaller places into Hawthorne isn't solving any problems. It's creating more congestion, it's creating parking issues, it's creating police issues, it's creating school issues, and it's not creating more residents and homeownership that I feel we truly need in this city to get advocacy for our city, to get people involved, and to get people here that really want to be in Hawthorne and help make it better and help maybe someday sit on commissions like these. Because these are the type of people that I believe we need to get into the city of Hawthorne, that are going to be a city of good neighbors and not just renters that are going to leave once they move out of this city and find something better or cheaper. So, you know, I think that this is something that the city council needs to be thinking about. I know that this is not what we are tasked to do today. We are tasked to believe if this is hitting zoning requirements and what that is doing, and that's what we're going to vote on today. But I do, for the record, want to go on that this is a much bigger issue, and putting Band-Aid fixes over it like this is not going to get us to where we need to be. That is my soapbox, and I'm finished.
well stated.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is what it is. And hopefully we do have a plan, because I do want to promote businesses. I do want to promote businesses here, and of course, home ownership. We have to come up with a plan for home ownership.
Yeah, we have a lot of things that we're working on right now to address all of these problems. But it is, as Commissioner Houston said, a very, very complex problem, and Band-Aids are gonna. Actually, I'm not gonna say Band-Aids, because you'll have to remember this is originally part of a much bigger ordinance. So this is just a tiny piece of it. There's a lot more to that ordinance that was approved last night. But yeah, we have to do this because this is state mandate stuff. And we don't have to do the specific things that I've recommended in here necessarily exactly the way I recommended them, but we do have to address each of these things.
Correct.
And so when I'm writing these kind of ordinances, I'm thinking, you know, ahead that, you know, this is going to help with our big picture problem. Now, I do also want to point out that just because there is a minimum that is low in terms of unit size, it doesn't mean that's where the market is. And if the market's not there, that's not what's going to be built. What they're going to build is what the market will sustain. And there is a very, very high demand right now for upper middle class, but small families, 1 or 2 people, maybe with 1 kid, but usually just singles and couples that work in the area and don't want to live out in the Inland Empire. So they can get by with a small one because it gets them into the neighborhood, it gets them into the thing, into the community, but not a very, very small. Like 400 is not going to work for a family of 3, right? So this is a little weird for me to say, but I trust the market on this because people are going to build what is going to make the most money for them, and it's not going to be tiny little boxes if the limit is on the number of units, right? So if you can build 30 units on this property, why would you build 30 tiny ones if you can build 30 medium-sized ones? Because you're going to make a lot more money on the medium-sized ones, right? So we have to like sort of trust that this is going to work out.
Okay.
Then they're going to come back and say that we don't have enough for affordable housing.
Oh,
But that's,
Well,
yeah, we're not going to get
I'm
into
gonna-
that, but
yeah.
yeah.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Trust me, we've got a lot of
So
things.
hopefully
working.
there's incentives for developers if they do come.
Yeah.
And that's my concern. We need to give them a lot of well,
Reasonable. Yeah.
yeah, reasonable incentives, but okay.
Yeah, last comments, I do agree with most of what Commissioner Houston had to say about this. But, you know, we've been here a while complaining about RENA for a long time. Still very much so would like to complain about RENA.
Sure.
Don't have any specific complaints right now because there's a lot of them that went along with us doing this. I do want to say commend you for the simple fact that you were able to find these units to fit here. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do around here, so kudos to you guys and staff for actually like figuring this out and doing it in according to other cities' record pace. So they appreciate that. I do think, like I said, there is some space here, which we've tried with other projects and trying to make sure that there are avenues for home ownership or making sure that we are getting that kind of neighborly experience out of folks. I do wish, like I think I've said this to some other people who've come to the commission, I do wish there were opportunities for us to do that. Unfortunately, when we don't understand where the spaces are for us to make that change, i.e. at our state level, like we allow our state representatives to kind of tie our hands to what we can and can't do. It kind of sucks at this point, but I wish we could do it better.
By putting a good chunk of the arena into the CM zone, it means we were able to not have to upzone in some of the smaller, the lower density residential areas.
Well, it's good. So, yeah, just definitely something for us to keep track of as we're here and seeing what's coming here, and hope that this. I'm going to go back to this meeting and record the part where Greg said, trust the market.
I'll be retired.
I just want to make sure that we all know that happened at one point. But yeah, I hope going forward things do better. So yeah, on that one, I entertain a motion to approve.
Please close the hearing first.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. So at this point, we'll formally close the public hearing on these items. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff to approve the resolution. That's what it is, 2306.
I motion.
A second.
Okay, Commissioner Houston,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Cohens,
Yes.
and Chairperson Richard.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Items to be placed on future agendas. Meeting of December 6, 2023.
We have a continued cannabis application. We hope that it's ready by then. The applicant was making some changes that, made it really tough for us to meet the deadline to, get in there, and they're probably still going to make some more changes. We have three other, in addition to the one we just mentioned, 3 other cannabis applications that will be coming up. Probably one of them will be on the December meeting, and the others will be January, February timeframe. So that's something we have coming up. We have well, only you will remember, we have a hotel proposal at 5151 West El Segundo Boulevard. That looks like, I'm still reviewing the revised and beefed up environmental documents. So it looks like it might be ready to go possibly on December 6th, otherwise it'll be January. And then there's always like little design things that come up, but I'm not sure which ones will be ready by then.
All right, commissioner reports. I'm gonna start this way.
Thank you guys for, again, your hard work. I know you're back there answering all our questions and so forth. So it's greatly appreciated. Also, happy holidays. It seems like a year is almost here. I mean, we're almost through this year, and it's just like, wow, we're already here in November. But have a happy holiday. And I guess that's it one more thing. Yes, the agendas. If we can get them just a little bit earlier, especially if it deals with cannabis or anything like that, just because I felt like I crammed these. This was a lot.
Yeah.
Cram in to look over.
We'll
if you could, if it's possible.
We'll try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's possible.
It should get easier because now we've got two of them. You know, there's a lot of repeat in terms of like conditions of approval and stuff. So it's quite possible we might be able to get them out faster.
Okay. And we already know what questions to ask, right?
Yeah. Although I got to say, every one of them is going to be different and unique. You know, there could be a whole bunch of new questions depending on where the others are proposing to be located and what their business model is.
And also, I'm seeing a lot of unhoused individuals. I know it's been a hot topic. Not sure who can look into like where the Hawthorne area and that 105 in front of the Hawthorne Airport.
No, there's a lot of effort that's going into the homeless issue. There are several departments of the city that collaborate on a regular basis. We have a housing coordinator that works for the city. Police and public works and planning and code enforcement and housing are all working on the problem. And we have developed a pallet shelter, which houses, I forgot how many, like 14 individuals temporarily, and provides services to them. So that's a good thing the city's doing. We also have negotiated with the county to get more rooms in the hotel that they've taken over on Imperial Highway, which they did in our city without our consent, but at least we're getting more rooms there, so we're getting more of the homeless people in there to get services and hopefully find a way to get out of the situation of homelessness. So we have a lot of people working on this issue, and yeah, it's one of those things that every time you're successful, it just means more people will flow in because word gets out. So it may never be solvable at city level.
That's it for me.
Nope, just seconding. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. You make it easy for us to come in and be informed. HPD, thank you for being here. We appreciate we thought it was going to be a crazy one tonight, but it wasn't. It was pretty good. So we're happy about that. And happy holidays to everybody. And then we'll see you before Christmas, Hanukkah, all the other ones. But have a great Thanksgiving.
Sure, okay. And then obviously echoing the sentiments, I want to say thank you for staff for being here. Again, happy holidays, Mark. I did want to again echo the fact I really did appreciate the fact that the applicant that came here had their entire ownership team here. I know that's not something we can require or request, but I think that that does show a really good precedent for when you say you care about the community, being here even for this meeting, even though they left like everyone else does right after their thing. But still is important that people come and show that they're actually going to put some sweat equity into being here in the community. So I really did appreciate that. I think that also likens to or harkens to how efficient and well planned this license selection process went. You're looking, if you scored someone as the highest here and they actually came in here with everyone in there, that shows that what you guys went through to do that went really well. So I want to just commend the city. You guys are doing that process. I do still want to ask the question of how I can get, like, follow up on the question with HPD about the security measures there. And that's mainly, I spent my day today going over data breaches for people who went to random companies or stopped somewhere and now have their information leaked on the internet or whatever. So just data management is always going to be first thing I'm going to look at. If we're collecting, why are we collecting? What are we keeping? Why are we keeping it? That kind of thing is just going to be top of mind for anything. So I'd like to see how we're, managing that at some point.
Yeah, send me an email this week, and I'll arrange to put you in contact with the reviewers over at Police Department.
For sure. So I appreciate that. Overall, I think the two ones that we looked at today looked pretty good. They came in with they're reasonable. I think the other question I forgot to ask was about the art gallery, because it's an art gallery in a dispensary, and we didn't ask any questions about that. That just seems really cool that they have it.
Yeah.
But also, it's open to public, or like, how does that work? Like, we should.
Yeah, it's beyond the access control. I mean, it's the public side of the access control, so it would be open to the public.
That's super cool, especially because they're right there next to Hawthorne Art Complex.
Yeah.
So if there's, artists that want to showcase there, you don't have to be, which I love the art complex. It's just way back in the back there. So it's be good to get those up front. So other than that, like I said, happy holidays. Hope staff is doing well. Everybody's doing good. And with that being said, we will move to adjourn our meeting much earlier than I thought we were going to adjourn it. So great job on that one too. So at 7:48, everyone be safe.